This is not a
Yo,
test. We're back.
this is not a false alarm.
Dude,
It's
this
Lit Book
reminds
Reviews.
me.
Back.
Yeah, we're back. Sorry.
With
I
me
was just
today,
going
as
to
always,
say,
is Olivia Wilde, and I am Chris Rock. Thanks for being with us
who were you
again.
before?
I don't
I can't
remember.
who you were. You were
Yeah.
you were Tom Hardy.
Yeah, I said
Maybe
Tom
not.
Hardy. I'm a combination of Chris Rock and Tom Hardy.
Dude, so we just recorded, luckily for only 5 minutes, and realized Jesse wasn't getting recorded, but he reminds me, today at work, actually, it's the first time I've done this, so, like, whenever we go into a store, like, if you're an opener, you have to, like, scan all the devices in the store. Like, someone scans all the devices, and then someone scans all the accessories. And the store I'm at, it's, like, a really high-volume store, so there's, like, so many phones. And it's, like, back in this back room in the safe.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, so you're, like, not near your computer, so when you're scanning, you don't, like, know if you're scanning or not. Like, you just kind of have to trust it. And today's the first day where, like, normally, like, people that are walking around will kind of let you know. They'll come back and be like, hey, dude, by the way, you're not scanning. Like, you know, it's not, like, picking up your scan in the notepad.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless, I got there, like, whoever gets there last has to scan devices. Like, it's just kind of what it is. So I got there not late, but someone else got there before me. Regardless, I spent like 30 minutes scanning all the devices before we opened. Walk back out, I wasn't scanning anything. So, like, everything that I had just done was, like, for none. And, dude, it really set me back. I'm not going to lie to you. It took me,
Dang,
you know,
man.
I had to really just lock in mentally just so, you know, I didn't leave this earth.
Did you make
So,
that major comeback after that minor setback, though?
I did all right today. But
Mm.
I don't know. It was like, you'd think that some of my teammates would have just really.
You'd think, bro.
You'd think,
You'd
because
think.
they walked by my computer at least 3 times. I know they did in that 30-minute period, and like
Yeah.
you can hear the deet deet deet, and so they would be able to look and see. But you know, it's fine. It's fine. It
Dang.
is what it is. But anyway, we're back. We are recording fully on both sides. You're asking about my hat. It's from a gun range place. It was sick. Honestly, I think you would like it. Have you ever been hunting before?
No.
No, I feel like you got some like sides on your family where I could see it.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. I mean, my brothers hunted and, like, that kind of stuff. It just was never something that me or Jeb really did growing up. I mean,
yeah,
I went one time into, like, somebody's land, like, back in, like, the woods or something with a shotgun and went, quote unquote, like, bird hunting with my brother. I didn't shoot anything. I was just shooting a shotgun into the trees. So I can't really say that I've ever actually been hunting. I mean, I've only shot a gun, like, well, it's been, I mean, maybe like 24 times in my whole life. No, not even that many.
24
Not even that many. I was trying to think of like a succinct way to say
a fortnight
it.
of times.
It's like more than 10, but less than 20, actually. So
a baker's dozen. You own
cool,
a gun though. That's what's kind of funny.
I mean, yeah, I've shot a gun
yeah.
I've shot a gun enough to know how to like use my gun, but I'm not like a gun fanatic. I just have one for self-defense purposes in case, you know, aliens come down or something. Because that's the only thing I'm thinking of.
You got those bare arms you got to protect. You know what I mean?
Got to bear them arms, brother.
I've been like a couple times because my mom's side of the family is real country. And so I actually have, I don't know where it is. I was actually looking for it the other day. I don't know if it was you at my house that we were looking for it. But anyway, I have like a deer head that's like been mounted, like because they do all that stuff. Like they like, not only do they kill it, they like know how to do it all. And I always tell everybody I shot this deer. It's like an 8-point. So like it's like an 8-pointer. So it's got like 8 points on its antlers or whatever. So apparently that's pretty good in the hunting realm. And I would always tell everybody it's mine. But really, when I went hunting with my uncle, I like shot. So I was like a kid. So I think this is frowned upon. I'll probably get arrested for this story. But come and find me. Anyway, apparently this is really frowned upon in the like hunting community. But I was a child. Like, I mean, I was literally like 10 or 11, and like I hadn't had my first kill yet. So my uncle was like, there was like a baby fawn there, and apparently you're really not supposed to shoot fawn. And so I shoot at it, and I definitely hit it, but I guess I didn't like wound it enough to kill it right there, which I get apparently is like it happens. So you have to like track the deer, like via the blood and whatnot. And so as we're like tracking it to find if we killed it, because it's also like very frowned upon to do that. So you need to really clean up if you do it. And so we're looking for it, and we find another, like we find that deer that was like an 8-pointer that had been shot and killed, or shot, but I guess didn't die originally, and so it had died.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he checked it somehow to know it was recent. So I remember we took it back, and like low key, we might still have meat till this day from that deer in our freezer at the house because it was a thick boy. We had to put it on the 4-wheeler and everything. But anyway, I remember I mounted it and put it in my room, and I would tell everybody that I killed it. But really, I shot at a fawn.
Wow, dude.
Which apparently is a red flag.
Absolute lies.
But dude, honestly, I was talking to Connor, and he was he goes often, and I was like, dude, I feel like it would be fun to get a group of guys and go just once. I feel like it could be miserable to do it like often, because like I've heard people talk about like going duck hunting, especially it's like super cold and they're just sitting there at like 3 a.m. But I'd do it once just to say that I've done it. But anyway,
dude,
this all got started off.
I don't know if I'm going.
Country thing, dude. You don't want to just. Have you ever killed an animal? I don't think I've ever intentionally killed an animal before. So
I've never.
Like, I feel like I've hit something with my car before, but
yeah, I've done that. I mean, I'm not like
I've done that.
I've definitely killed some squirrels in my day, but it's more just getting up at 1 a.m. to go sit in the woods and wait for ducks. Yeah, I mean, dude, if I was, going hungry and I needed to kill to eat, I'm there all day. But
yeah, that's I think part of why I want to know. Yeah, that's why, like, when I went to this gun thing, because I mean, I haven't shot a gun since I was like, I think since that day that I shot that fawn. So literally almost 2 decades ago, and so I was like, honestly, I feel like it's a good skill to know because I don't own a gun, but I. Like, just learning how to load the shot. I mean, this sounds so ignorant to people who probably do this stuff all the time. But anyway, like, if I was, like, in a life or death situation before 2 weekends ago, I mean, dude, it is. I mean, hopefully I'm making a good judgment on the fly on how I'm loading a shotgun. Because I wouldn't know. I mean, I just have never done it before. Whereas now, dude, I'm like, all right. I just feel like I've learned a skill, that, like, could... I don't know. Hopefully I never need that skill, but still.
Hopefully not.
So we're just, this is kind of a new thing we're going to do. We're going to try and start doing some weekly updates here just to let you guys know what we're reading, what's coming soon, maybe how our weeks are going, and then throw in a little something after. Just quick little videos because I know a lot of ours are super long, and probably none of you are watching them. So we'll give a little shorter
So who cares?
format. And see if that gets more traction or not. But anyway, for me to start, I just finished Mistborn, The Final Empire. Is that what we think it's called?
That is for sure what it's called, yes. The first one. Sure. Yeah.
And it was great. Honestly, I know Jesse and I talked about this before. I had my doubts going into this. Honestly, I was really kind of wanting to read some other things. Instead, we jumped right into it more because you, Jesse, and I'm glad we did because it was a great, like, high story. And
well, it was weird the way it went down. Like, obviously, you're a big Sanderson fan, so I knew you'd eventually read it. But we've talked about it, and you've like not been keen on it. And then we kind of, I mean, I don't really remember talking about it like purposefully, like we're gonna start it like soon. And then just one day you were like, yeah, dude, I started Mistborn. I'm 190 pages in. And I was just like, oh, so we're reading Mistborn. Let's go.
Yeah, I think literally the first day I read, I mean, I think 150 pages, like, quickly. And that was the day we recorded Hunger of the Gods. So I think I was just in the mood, and I guess it just happened to be on top, and you had mentioned it. And I think you had said you wanted to just rip right into it as well. But, yeah, I mean, I loved it. We'll end up talking about that here soon. So where are you at again?
I'm only like 120 pages in.
I also read this
Napoleon.
in 4 days.
Yeah, I'm definitely not
going to be.
Yeah, you've ripped through this way faster than most books that we read at the same time. But I've been, to give you a weekly update, I just moved into the new house I'm in, so I haven't had a lot of time to read. I really just started reading again yesterday, and it was only for like an hour before I went to bed. So I read some more today, read a little bit of Napoleon. We are both reading Napoleon by Andrew Roberts about young Bonaparte. So we'll have a few videos coming up on that one. We're actually going to do it's a 3-part book, so we're going to do 3 different videos for each part. We're going to have a special guest with us for each of those. But yeah, man, I'm hyped to get into Mistborn. It feels like, which makes sense because this is like, as far as the Cosmere, it's the first book that I'm pretty sure it's the first book you wrote in the Cosmere. The Emperor's Soul might have been first, maybe. I'd have to look, but either way, it's early on in his writing.
Yeah.
And so, not to say it's lesser writing, but it's definitely like a more simplistic, like straightforward story than something like Stormlight, where you're not having to you're not putting together a ton of world building, like, you know.
I could see where this,
or at least having a ton of questions
to start. Like if they're not like super into long format fantasy.
Yeah, for sure. And it's an entertaining story so far. I really like it. Sanderson's writing is great in my opinion. I'm already like, you know, I feel deeply attached to both of the main characters so far. So yeah, I'm into it, man. I'm pretty sure, I'm not going to say what they are, but like just because we've read all of Stormlight and I've been like pretty involved like on Reddit, and I've always been really into like fan art. So like inevitably when you start looking at Stormlight stuff online, Mistborn stuff pops up, and there's kind of Mistborn spoilers like kind of throughout anyway. But either way, pretty sure I know a few key things that happen in the first era of Mistborn, and I'm just trying to like not think about them while I'm reading, but I think I know something like
huge
extremely important in the last book.
Oh, of like the newest one, like the Lost.
No. Sorry, the last book of the first era. So the third book in Mistborn.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm hyped to get into it. I mean, everybody that I hear talk about Sanderson loves Mistborn. I hear Era 2 is more, I don't want to say weak. Controversial, but well, not even weak, but there are more people who don't like it as much as others. But at the same time, I've heard people say that their favorite book, like in all the Cosmere, is in that second era series. I think the 5th Mistborn book is like really, really popular as being one of the best. Okay. But yeah, man, I'm hyped to get into it. I'll just say this while I'm thinking about it. I think we should soon just do a video. We should read, you know, off screen or whatever, the prologue for Stormlight 5, and do a video on that, because I keep seeing people like,
I saw where Sanderson just released, I think literally yesterday or 2 days ago, that he's 88% done with book 5.
Oh, let's go.
Did you say anything back to that? You froze for a second.
I lost you there for a second.
No! I'll cut it out. It's fine. I said that Sanderson released it. He's 88% done with book 5.
Oh, okay, let's go. And I think it's supposed to come out, what, fall of next year, I think.
Yeah, he did say it'll be. He was like, yeah, so you guys will be reading this about this time next year. And I'm like,
that hurts.
Brendan! Come on, man. I mean, we got so much left to read for Sanderson. And
we literally have all the Mistborn to read, which is 7. Well, I guess you only have 6 in that, but we'll just say 7. Then we have the Emperor's Soul, Tress, Yumi, The Sunlit Man. That's 11 books in the Cosmere
I got a feeling we'll be eating them up, though. I mean, especially after, I mean, because they're all so much small. I mean, obviously, the first 4, the Stormlight is just the ones that are the hardest to get through. Not like content-wise, just, I mean, page-wise, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm hyped.
So, yeah.
We also have, we'll probably do some Murderbot here soon. Maybe, maybe not. I started a book called, so it's M.L. Huang's other book. I should know it off the top of my head, and I don't. I was going to not read it, dude.
That's the Sword of Kaigen author?
Sword of Kaigen author, and it's called Blood Over Bright Haven. It came out this July, so it's a new book. It's got 4.5 stars on Goodreads. Only a little over. It's almost 1.5 thousand ratings, but so not that many ratings, but I mean, I'm like 100 pages in. It's pretty good so far. We are going to do Rise and Fall. I know I've been saying it for 3 years, but we're going to do the first part of that with old Papa Loach on coming up Friday. So today we're filming this on Wednesday, November 8th, and we're going to record that here in 2 days. So that'll actually be done, and then like Jesse said, Napoleon.
Wait, what's happening in 2 days? I got confused.
We'll film Rise and Fall.
Oh, okay, bet.
We're going to teach, we're gonna dive into our books, teach you, Jesse, and the others. Dude, there's some fascinating stuff. A little too
I'm
fascinating.
excited,
You can
man.
literally see the swastika up there, which has caused me issues at work, but that's why it's there.
It's just kind of like, why would, like, I get it makes complete sense why that would be on that book, but it's also like just for that alone.
I can't take it anywhere. Yeah, I literally can't take it anywhere because now I literally look. I mean, it's not just a small swastika either. It's a massive
that thing's
swastika.
big. And it's like, why would you put this on the
book?
book?
And it's on the front, even bigger. So
yeah, no, I've seen it before, like in stores and stuff. I don't get how it's like. I mean, it's just strange. I don't know.
I lack that connection in my brain too, to where like it took me being in a scenario where someone's like, "What are you reading, dude?" for me to even think, "Oh yeah, like I probably should only read this in the comfort of my home." So I'm reading on my Kindle in public, so people don't know, and that's fun.
Fascinating stuff. Otherwise, coming up, I will have, and this is probably a little ways off, but I'll be reading about James Madison next in my kind of founding fathers series I've been on. I'm on president number 4. And then actually some cool stuff. I have my Goodreads pulled up so I could refer to these and mention them properly.
You want to share your screen or no?
So just some stuff I've added recently that I was curious if you've ever heard of the Brent Weeks series, The Way of Shadows, the Night Angel series.
I have that whole series, and I've heard really good things about it. It's because it's supposedly grimdark. So,
yeah, I've been seeing about it, and it's got a ton of ratings, a really high rating.
Dude, they just came out with like a new like editions for it. So I have that edition that we're looking at right there, which is But dude, the new editions in store, bro, are sick, dude. I've almost bought it again solely just because they look so cool. He has another series called Lightbringer, which is even more popular. It's a longer series, but yeah, I've heard really good things about this series as well.
Yeah, 170,000 ratings almost, 4.15. Oh, wow. I saw this, The Broken Empire series by Mark Lawrence.
It's in first person, I know.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, Prince of Thorns. It's got a little lower rating, 3.84 with 112,000, so maybe not overall as good.
Looks higher though, obviously, but I mean, like we've said before, that's kind of
I saw this, The Vagrant. I think this one might be fairly newer, or maybe just not as popular. Only a little over 1,000 ratings, but the cover looks sick. Foundry Side. I don't know if you've heard of the Founders trilogy, but
heard of that one.
Yeah, and then the Ronin saga, The Covenant of Steel. Have you heard of that?
Dude, that's the third book. If we look on my shelf here, 1 second. I'm gonna grab it, even though this is gonna make for bad cut.
This says Covenant of Steel #1.
Yeah, that's the Pariah. So I've read that one and The Martyr, which is the second one.
Are those good?
Here, what was I? All right, so I've got, this is the one I was saying, I was thinking about reading it pretty soon here, but dude, the covers are so sick. So this is the newest one. It just came out like a couple months ago. It's new, but I will say it's like a reading curve for me, and I don't know if you have either, but just at least the ones we've read have all been third person. It's first person fantasy, dude, is tough at first, man. It's so tough. And it's a first person narrative, but it's good. It's a little confusing, I would say. The writing is a little choppy sometimes to me, but I mean, I've liked it. I've read the first 2. They're not in my top 10 or anything, but
yeah,
it's still a good series worth reading for sure.
Well, I'll have to check that out at some point. And then Eric Larson,
he has a new one.
It's not coming out till April, but it sounds really good, man. It's going to be called The Demon of Unrest, a saga of hubris, heartbreak, and heroism at the dawn of the Civil War. Eric Larson, if you don't know, I know you know, but if you're out there listening, he wrote The Devil in the White City. It's probably his most popular book. And then he's written stuff like In the Garden of Beasts, Dead Wake.
Dead Wake is one of my all-time favorites, honestly.
Yeah, Splendid in the Vial, which is really another great one. So I'm really excited for that to come out. This is so random, dude. But this is called Great Uncle Harry, and it's just this author that like found out about his uncle that was involved in like World War I or something like that. And so that's a new book. So yeah, I think it just came out.
It was November 7th.
And I was hoping
when it came out yesterday.
I can't remember where this other book is. Yeah, I've just had a lot of random stuff recently added. Oh yeah, the Cradle series, the Powder Mage, what we've talked about, Lightbringer,
Ooh, yeah.
Codex Alera. I've heard of. I'll be honest, it's like an older series, so a lot of these are
Oh,
cursed
that's
by this.
Jim.
But
That's Jim Butcher, bro. Dude, do you know Do you know how this series originated?
mm-mm.
I heard a story. So essentially, Jim Butcher's an author. I've read some of his other books. He has like short. I would compare it to Murderbot in the sense of like they're just quick stories. It's called the Dresden Files, and it's like a modern
Oh
fantasy. And so
yeah,
I've read the first two of those, and they're like really quick. They're kind of like funny. But anyway, I guess the Jim Butcher guy got into an argument about a guy about how books are really more just good ideas and not good authors. And he was saying that that's not true, that it's actually the opposite way, that a bad author can take a good idea and still write a horrible book from it. Like it won't be a good book. Whereas like
right.
a good author can take a horrible idea and make it great. And so apparently this guy gave him the challenge of, I think it's like Pokemon, and he was like, you got to combine Pokemon and like the Greek gods or something like that and make a
Oh
story out
really?
of it. And so he did it like as a challenge, and then it ended up being a good series.
Interesting. Well, it makes me want to read it more.
Yeah, so that's the only reason
Okay.
I heard about that on a podcast that I watched like a couple months ago, and I forgot about it. So I didn't like pair Codex
Interesting.
Alera with Jim Butcher until just now. Dude, that Dark
Very
Matter book, you
interesting.
just passed it. I really wanted to read. We should have read that one for. I mean, it's already come and gone October, but
Yeah. We'll get to it. But anyway, yeah, it
I'm
was some of the
interested.
recent ones. Ronald C. White has a new one that just came out that I'm actually about to buy here soon. And I can't remember what it's called, so whatever. But yeah, I was just going to show some recent series that I'd noticed fantasy-wise. Whenever I get into these fantasy books, it like makes me want to get more into it. So I was just
It's
looking
just
at
such a
more
can of
stuff.
worms, dude. You just open up one, and then it's just. I mean, like we were just saying, it's something about the air right now. Like, dude, I want to start
Yeah,
17
man.
fantasy books all right now.
It really
Like,
does feel like it's like wintertime, and I just want to read fantasy in the wintertime. I don't know why. It's so weird.
it
Something
is
about just wanting to be cozied up and reading
cozied
and
up
just
and just
escaping.
transport into another world for sure.
Um, the other two books I did want to mention is so Ronald C. White's new book that just came out is called On Great Fields: The Life and Unlikely Heroism of Joshua L. Chamberlain. It's a Civil War Union general, I believe.
Okay.
And then Tom Holland, who's written like
Oh,
Rubicon,
good old Tom.
Dynasty. He just released one called Pax: War and Peace in Rome's Golden Age. So he's
Mm.
written two of my two very favorite books I've read on the Roman Empire, being Rubicon and Dynasty. So I'm sure this is going to be great. So yeah, man, got some new books that I'm going to add to the shelves that are full of books that I haven't read yet.
Got to. It's a
Got to do it.
must. Got to do it. Do it. All right, well, I'll, if you'll stop sharing, I'll share. So now that we're kind of caught up on what we're doing recently, um, let me half screen it again.
Also, just a sad story while you're pulling up whatever you want for all you dog lovers out there. So I've had a dog for
God.
several years. He's my best friend, and I had to temporarily give him to a friend. So if you're
Brutal.
hearing that, just send out them solid thoughts and prayers.
We should start a GoFundMe, honestly,
I mean, yeah,
just in general.
for a good cause. Just GoFundMe
For
just
me.
for whatever we like want to spend it on.
Help us survive. Fund. Oh,
Oh
man.
man.
Oh, man.
So
All right,
what's this?
so we were, I know, kind of mentioning some stuff, and I feel like, we love talking about books and stuff, but what do we really know? And at the end of the day,
Nothing.
after talking with Carol after the wager and listening to her talk about, I guess, thriller and how I had thought what I thought what a thriller was, and I was just completely wrong. So anyway, I'm like, we might as well learn about the genre we claim to love so much, because I know there's
Let's do it.
tons of like subgenres. So anyway, I found this article, and one of the first things I realized is I've heard people say high fantasy all the time, and I know I should know like the difference between high fantasy and low fantasy, but apparently low fantasy is like Harry Potter, so it's fantasy that takes place in a real world setting. So any
Huh.
place on Earth, you know, it's
That's low
called
fantasy.
low fantasy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't have a lot of fantastical elements. It's just considered low fantasy, whereas high fantasy is like Lord of the Rings, John
Like where there's a bunch of
Gwynne,
world building.
yeah, Sanderson, tons of world building, and then that kind of folds into like epic fantasy, which is always series based, big open world, which seems to be.
Big
I mean, I know it's
RPG.
one of my favorites, but also I would say if I had to guess just already, like I would say that's probably one of your favorites, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
you're
that's
down for
by
epic
far
fantasy.
my, yeah, epic high fantasy, like the more complex and big the world is, because I'm all about world building, dude. And like
Hmm.
in Sanderson, that's why I love those books so much, is because we talked about this the other day. Like a lot of the Stormlight books are discovering the world that the characters are living in, discovering it with them. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's definitely, I would say,
So you're
my
getting a
favorite.
lengthy journey, dragons, magicians, assassins, legendary swords, big.
Mm.
I would say I love a good legendary sword.
Oh yeah, dude, legendary sword. I don't need dragons. I think dragons like
Yeah,
are tough to do. Like John Gwynn does a good job, I think, with the way he's done it,
true.
like the whole god form. But I think I usually stay if I see something revolves around dragons, I'm usually a little less inclined to get into it. Just I don't know why.
I
Like dragons are
I
sick,
I
and I
know
love
exactly what you're
like
saying
House
though.
of the Dragon, uh, the HBO
Yeah.
spinoff of Game of Thrones. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I haven't read a ton of dragon stuff, but when I see it, I'm like, I don't
There's
need
that
dragons.
series right now, and I heard the second book just came out. Um, Lexi read it and loved it. It's everywhere. It's The Fourth Wing. Have you seen that
Oh
book
yeah, yeah, I've
everywhere?
seen about it. I haven't.
Has
Yeah,
she
I've seen about it.
has Taylor read it?
No, she had mentioned wanting to read it though.
So the second book just came out, I think yesterday.
Hmm.
But anyway, that's I know dragon based. Dude, something that I love is this right here. I love a good map.
I love a map. Yep.
Dude, if that's in a book, I'm already down. I know you were saying that was one of the things that got you into Shadow of the Gods. You were saying you saw the map and loved that there was like the spine of the snake across the whole world.
Yeah, it was
It
sick.
was
It was
sick.
just like, wow, this snake is ginormous. But and I really like again to refer to Sanderson. Like I really need to hop off his peen. But explained it so well the other day. He was like, I love seeing a map in a book and being informed that this isn't just like a map for you, the reader. This is the map that the characters in the book have. So you can
Yeah.
like see like it just makes you feel like you're more. It makes the world feel so much more real
Oh, for
because you're not
sure.
just being told stuff. You're being given like what would appear to be like an official document, if you will, in that world. So yeah, I love that stuff, and I love that about Sanderson's books too. That he'll put like little cultural art like in between some of the chapters. Like you'll see, oh, this is the type of clothing that the Alethi wear, and like this is the type of
Oh yeah.
weapons that this army uses.
Well, and it helps you understand conflict so much more because if there's a lot of political intrigue going on,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a map, I mean, it just makes more sense if it's like resource based or if it's just like their neighbors or whatever. I mean, it just makes it so much easier to comprehend. Like,
Right.
oh, this military moved in from here to
Yeah.
here. We're
When
going on this long
yeah.
journey from this location to this location. I mean, it
Yeah,
just
and I
makes
think
it so much easier to
it's like
see
being
and
a
run.
history lover is like what makes it me love it even more is because like in books like Napoleon, what we're reading right now, like dude, I like look at those maps pretty intently, just like,
Dude,
and I'll
there's
go
maps.
back
Of
to them
course, there's
when they're
maps,
talking
dude.
about
That's what I'm
battles.
missing out on. Dude, I'm reading the
Mm,
Audible reading. I'm listening to the Audible version, dude. That's a tragedy, dude. I literally was thinking of
yeah,
it today when I was listening to the later half of one of the chapter after Egypt, and I'm like, where is this in the world? Because it's a city. I
yeah.
don't know the name of it, but
Hold
anyway.
on one second, Andrew. Hey,
Mhm.
Mr. Stein wants me to actually go to the fucking crystal and see if they have a car.
right now?
Yeah, Mr. Stein does.
Oh God.
So I'm gonna take the dogs with me.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll see you.
Come on, dogs.
Bum ba-dum bum. Bum ba-dum bum
Sorry.
bum. She's dropping F bomb.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Not
She
her.
doesn't care. Sorry, you're gonna have to edit that out too.
And we are back.
Back. Sorry
Anyway,
to stop you in the middle of your sentence there.
I can't remember what I was saying, but we just love epic fantasy, I think is what we were going to say. I love how it has the final empire on here. I wonder when this was written. Oh, December 2015.
Nice.
So I graduated high school when this came out. That's a weird thought. So the whatchamacallit's not even on here, like Stormlight. But we got the final empire.
That's one of the editions of Lord of the Rings that I have, of the 2 editions I have.
Oh, this one. Yeah, these are cool, dude. I love the way those look.
Yeah.
All right, so to move on, or you got something else to say?
No, I mean, I was just going to say I've never really read any low fantasy, so I couldn't really speak. I never read Harry Potter. I don't think I can think of anything that's on Earth.
Low fantasy.
Yeah.
I've read a couple low fantasies. So the Dresden Files that we were just talking about, that's low fantasy because it's set, I think, in like Boston or something like that. Is it Highlander or not Highlander? Dude, I'm so ignorant for me saying this. It's like a very popular show right now, but it's by Diana.
Outlander?
Outlander. I think that would be considered low fantasy because they're going back. I think it's low fantasy and then this next one, Portal Fantasy.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, what's Portal Fantasy? I see Chronicles of Narnia there. Classic.
Fantasy where characters travel. Dude, I think I have a lisp that I've inherited just today. Where characters travel from real world into a fictional fantasy world.
Oh, okay.
Off through a portal or gateway. I don't think I've really ever read. I mean, I've read Have I? Have you ever read
Chronicles of Narnia? I didn't. I don't think I read like the last 2. I can't remember. I think there's 7 maybe. I can't remember, but I read like 4 or 5. I'm pretty sure.
Are they pretty good?
I mean, I think I was literally 12 when I read them. So I mean, I couldn't really tell you, but
mind, like later on doing a little deep dive into the old Chronicles.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know what people who have read them more recently in their life think in comparison to like other fantasy, like if they still hold up. Because it does feel like it's more like geared towards children.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not. I could be wrong. I could be thinking that just because I remember the movies better than the books.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. So the Never-Ending Story, dude, is down there, bro. That book and that movie used to be a backbone for me. You see what else? Here, look at the last one on here.
Oh, one of your favorites, A Darker Shade of Magic.
Dude, you want to talk about something again? I just hate to just always, I mean, haven't brought up in forever, but I mean, just such a great concept that I just felt like was missed, and that's fine. So anyway.
I have all 3 of these. You left them down here. I have them.
I left them on purpose.
Yeah, I figured you did. So next we have urban fantasy / contemporary. What's this about? So
this is actually this is the newest one. Well, probably not now. It's 2015, but essentially this is Dresden Files right here, Jim Butcher.
Oh, okay.
Urban fantasy. So I would classify, I mean, you haven't read Greenbone Saga, but I would classify it as urban fantasy or contemporary fantasy-ish. It's like more like 80s, 90s vibes. It's not like technically on Earth. It's in a fictional like Asian society. But anyway, define has been used in many different ways. Generally describes a fantasy set in an urban environment or society. So, I mean, that one's pretty easy. I feel like, dude, when I was reading, when we were reading Book to Die, it gave me a lot of Dresden File vibe. So it would literally be like Book to Die is how the Dresden Files are. But if you mixed in that instead of Cliff being just a normal detective, he would be a wizard detective. Is essentially exactly what it is. The same exact setting of like the 80s in a city, and he's just doing magical like investigations. So, you know, I feel like this is not like a big genre. I could be ignorant saying that. I think Twilight would probably go into this.
I think Twilight was up there with Portal, with Low Fantasy.
Yeah, I feel like these cross over, right? Isn't that what it says?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it says, yeah.
Or contemporary. Well, maybe not. Yeah, real world, urban. Speaking of Twilight. Paranormal, supernatural creatures or talents exist and are a key focus of the story. I just don't... I will say, I love a good vampire story.
Yeah.
That's kind of a more recent thing for me, too.
I mean, I like, the idea of vampires is like so sick, but I do think it has to be done in like, for me, like a very dark way, like not a romantic way like Twilight. Like I want it to be super dark and like violent. Like when I think vampires, dude, like remember the movie 30 Days of Night We've talked about it before. Did you ever watch it?
No, dude, I need to because
Dude,
it sounds like something I would love. I might watch it tonight, honestly. Is it on Netflix or a streaming platform, you think?
I'm not sure, but honestly, I mean, what is money, dude? Just pay $3.99 to rent it or something. Because it really is good, dude, and it's maybe the severity of like violence and savagery maybe doesn't need to be in like any story that I say I would like about vampires, but it's definitely in the vein. I mean, it's a modern one. It's just like real world, like vampires show up in Alaska, but
it's dark.
The way they are presented and like the way they act and like just how like, I mean, dude, it's just intense and really dark. So like that's what I like. And then I liked like Dracula Untold, that movie with Luke Evans. Yeah, very dark movie. Setting. Could have been better, but that's kind of what I like. I'm not looking for, Edward Cullen vibes.
Good old Edward Cullen. We're going to just go ahead and skip over a couple of these.
Team Edward, though.
Fantasy
romance. Huh?
I don't know if we are not genre, what is it called?
I mean, anything having to do with romance, I'm just not going to be into. I mean, obviously romance is great. Love.
Dude,
but I'm not trying to read
hold
about
on. Mistborn's got a little something in it.
I'm fine with romance being in stories, for sure.
You don't want it to
I don't want something that is, that's like...
I agree.
Built off the romance.
I like it as an element, for sure. It definitely
I actually really like it as an element. Yeah, for sure.
And I didn't even want to say really like, because I do think I also really like it. And I almost want to feel ashamed, because when I was talking to you about, you're not there yet, but you're close. But essentially there's some parts in Mistborn that I really liked, and when I look back, I'm like, am I okay? Because it's just like the parts where it's the parts where there's not a lot of action going on. It's all the back and forth.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about the writing, dude. I'm sure there's some romance book out there that I could pick up and be like, okay, like I'm with this. It's all about the writing, but like at first glance, I'm never picking up anything that is built off of romance.
No chance. This is something that I just have no desire really to get into. Again, I'm sure it can be done well. I will say, if I am ever going to try something, it is going to be that series by Brandon Sanderson that Jake...
Skyward.
Yeah. Because I've heard good things about it, not just from Jake, but...
Yeah, and I could also see how, like, again, I've told you this before, like, I read a book for what it is, so if I go in knowing this is YA, I could see being in the frame of mind where I'm like, okay, I'm going in for probably a simpler read, not as much, like I'm not going to be quite as invested, like it may not just overall be as good, but if I go in knowing that, dude, I feel like I could be like satisfactorily entertained, like, if I'm looking for something a little more simple to not work the brain so much. But
what it is going in. Yeah, I agree.
Children's fantasy, I mean, that might be too far.
This is, The Wizard of Oz, which, dude, did you realize, I know we talked about it a little bit when we were into that store and we saw some of the editions. I mean, that's an absolute lengthy series, The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, yeah, and I didn't realize that until we saw those books, but I see Chronicles of Narnia is in there again, so that kind of attests to me saying it was geared towards children, which is so interesting with C.S. Lewis, like, being, just one of the most intricate, eloquent, like, smartest writers, like, still referred to, like, even aside from, like, religious things, like, he's obviously known to be very smart, so it's kind of cool thinking he wrote, like, one of the most popular children's fantasies.
Yeah, and I think, again, like you were saying, knowing what it is when it was written as you're going into it, I feel like it could help you. Because, dude, I feel like we could crank those out, like, easily.
Yeah.
Fairy tale retelling. I guess I don't even know if we've ever read one of these either. Like a Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if... I will say,
I've never read
have you
anything like
seen
this.
Maleficent?
Yeah, Maleficent's great. Yeah, with Angelina Jolie.
Well, that was partially probably why it was really good, but...
Well, that's what that's why, for sure.
That was why is Frozen on here? Whatever. Dude, so this, I really do feel like, is kind of the backbone, outside of Grimdark, which is down here. It's also in this list for sure, but the old heroic fantasy and sword and sorcery fantasy are what I think I am most into for sure, which is more John Gwynne.
Swashbuckling heroes.
Swashbuckling. So stories that focus primarily on the old swashbuckling heroes, swordplay, exciting battles, and violent conflicts. I mean, I am in for that like 100%, and then the whole sword and sorcery vibes. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
here
all
for that.
about. I'm all about some swords. I mean, we haven't really talked about it on here, but on the like fantasy story that I'm trying to build, like I definitely like have some ideas and like elements that revolve around like the
Yeah.
swords being very important. So
Oh, and
I'm all
swordplay,
about that.
it really is almost the equalizer. I know you haven't read the
I mean, the
first
word
law.
swordplay just sounds kind of sus, but
It does sound sus, but when you're in a setting where it's all swordplay and maybe there's just light magic, you can have
yeah,
a guy who is just super OP
right,
because he can kill anyone. And like when it's just swords, it's like, I mean,
yeah,
an elite sword guy, I mean, is just going to be able to take on so many people because you can't really do anything about it. So, and the same with like
right,
Orca, and like it's the perfect setting for someone to just be OP because obviously in modern day now, for someone to be that OP, they'd have to be bulletproof or something, you
right,
know,
yeah.
or have to
And
have
when there's
some
too much
magic ability.
magic, they have to be like just an OP magic person that almost makes
Yeah.
it like not interesting.
It's like Invincible, which is still interesting, but then you have to do other
Yeah,
things to make it more interesting anyway. It's
yeah.
more
He has to get
just
the dog crap beat out of him for it to be interesting.
exactly. So I love this genre, and I would say John Gwynn definitely is in this. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say he's like
In a bunch of them, but
this.
this is one for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely like I would say probably the main one. If it's not like I feel like a lot can fall under high fantasy, epic fantasy. I feel like that's like I feel like there's a few bigger subgenres and there's sub. This feels like the
Yeah,
sub that John
yeah,
Glenn falls
definitely
into.
sub. I
Yeah,
agree with
sub.
that because this feels. I mean, it's probably not the definition of traditional fantasy, but when I think of traditional fantasy, this is what I think of. I think of
Yeah,
heroic sword and sorcery. I'm looking
which
for mighty heroes,
yeah, and I mean I feel like
swordplay,
Lord of
magic.
the Rings would to a degree. Like it's probably a little too high and epic to just be
Yeah.
this, but I feel like it has a lot of this like as the
Oh
backbone.
yeah, the
I
heroic
mean,
fantasy. It's
Narsil isn't it Narsil,
for
right?
what?
The Aragon sword. I mean, that's a huge
Oh yeah.
point or point huge factor in the story. So yeah. Anyway,
I agree. Which then again, I feel like does play into medieval fantasy. I feel like medieval fantasy, and then I guess you could have heroic fantasy and it not be. When I think of sword and sorcery, though, I'm thinking more medieval. Like I love the
yeah.
medieval time period.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because it's like
So
it's such a. I mean, it's a time that's crazy to read about in history, dude. When you're reading about like,
God,
I mean, there's just something so fascinating about imagining like steel just being like the ruling. Like just
yeah.
sword fighting, man, and like in that
Like if
era
you were
where,
elite with a sword, like no one
yeah,
can do anything about it. Like you're like a god,
right.
essentially.
And it's at that time period where obviously there's no like bro, if I get stabbed with a sword right now, I'm either gonna die or I'm gonna get saved at Grady. If I get stabbed with a sword in medieval times, there's 0% chance I'm surviving, and it's gonna be a long time until I
And
die,
if you do
probably.
survive, you're gonna wish that
Yeah,
you
you're
hadn't
gonna
survived.
wish you were dead. And then just all the like savagery that comes with the like the dark
Yeah.
age like kind of idea of like people getting drawn and quartered and just all that kind of stuff.
Dude, and I love all that. I love the knights. Like I
Yeah.
love that type of hierarchical system and like watching someone try and finagle through it with, a monarchy and royal family and
Yeah.
dude, I
Oh,
love that type of
dude, I
I
love a
love a
good
good royal family.
monarchical story, man.
Oh god.
If there's a king or like even an emperor, like an empire would be cool. But dude, anytime you have like a ruling
Oh
family
yeah.
story, it's just there's something so compelling about it, which is crazy because almost anybody you would talk to, if you broke it down, like even if they didn't have like all the information, you talked about it for a while, most people would be like, oh yeah, monarchies are like inherently just not good because of you just
Yeah.
eventually it's not going to work out. Even if you have like a good and noble king, like eventually it's not going to work out. But when it comes to storytelling, dude, it's just like partially probably
Yeah.
because it's a bad system, but it's just so interesting
Well,
to
and
read
there's just
about.
so much power at the top. So if somehow there's some
Right.
drama going on, it's like, ooh, so and so's real close to
Yeah.
grabbing the reins, and then they can kind of do whatever they want. Maybe they'll change
Yeah.
stuff, or maybe they'll go down even a worse path. It's
And that's what makes the story like I was just referring to House of the Dragon, which is a show. I mean, there's the book about it as well, but the show did so well. Like, a lot of it's so political, but dude, there's so many little things they do to show that disparity of these kind of stories, like when there's a monarchy or a royal family and like just a huge disparity between the top and the bottom. There's this scene where there's this battle has been going on between basically the royal family's armies and like these people that are rebelling in this area, and the royal armies are like kind of getting whooped when you see this scene, like, and there's a dude lying out in the field, like basically half dead, like getting tortured by these crabs and stuff that the bad guy's putting on him while he can't move. And then one of the main characters of the royal family, Daemon, shows up on his dragon to, like, you know, save the day. And the guy on the ground is screaming like, "Hail Prince Daemon, save us, kill them all this stuff. And then Daemon comes in and lands his dragon and crushes the dude. Like, in his own army. And then there's several other instances that I won't list all of them, obviously, but it just made me think of that. I don't know why I'm diving so deep, but it's a cool thing to see, because you learn it. You see in those stories that even the characters you like love and that you're supposed to like in the story are like, you still have to see it for what it is. You're like, man, they're at the top, and they really honestly, like, it's just their culture, and they probably don't know any better to a degree, but they just do not care about the populace. Like, they do not care. Like, at all. The system's broken.
Dude, and I love a good B-tard story, brother. Of dude rising of just a... Are we getting canceled for me doing that, you think?
I mean, who cares about monetization, you know? We're doing this for fun.
GoFundMe. Anyway, I love that type of, you know, what's a better word for it? The, what kind of sun? Or, well, I guess it could be words, dude. What is it? What's another word?
What are you looking for?
For another word for B-tard.
I mean, can you not just say bastard on YouTube?
I can, I'm sure, but I think it's funnier to say B-tard. But there's also, like,
I mean, it is. You're right.
There's like a word though for a son that's not like
illegitimate.
Illegitimate, yes. I love a good illegitimate rise. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I agree. I mean,
right, moving on.
Again, to refer to it, Jon Snow is like a great
Johnny
example.
Snow, our historical fantasa. I don't think
Dude, this is the series I was telling you about.
This one is. It's in
or this is one of them. Yeah,
it's set in the time.
Yeah, so His Majesty's Dragon. Yeah, Naomi Novik. I'm pretty sure that's a series that's like revolves around the Napoleonic Wars, but just with dragons. I would love to get into this.
Yeah, that'd be a good segue after Napoleon. Dude, which, by the way, I like saw another little tease of a commercial, or what is the real word for it? A trailer for that video or movie, and dude, it looks so good.
It does look good, and I saw something funny as well where apparently some of the people that have like pre-screened the movie have talked about how there's historical errors in it, and somebody in an interview asked Ridley Scott about it. Like, what do you have to say to people who say your movie has historical errors in it? And he said, "Get a life." I thought that was pretty funny. But apparently there's some pretty big inaccuracies. But yeah, the Tiramare series we definitely need to get into, and the old historical fantasy genre. When I put that question on Reddit, when I told people I was mostly a nonfiction history reader, but I was really getting into fantasy, a lot of people suggested that series. So
yeah.
Anyway,
I'm interested to give it a little try for sure. All right, so we'll do a couple more because I know we got we're already at 50 minutes. So much for this being a short video.
Classic.
Comic,
there's a lot to cut
fantasy. There is a lot. This Terry Pratchett, bro. This is the first. Yeah, this is Discworld right here. So Discworld, it looks wild, man. The concept I think is just very sarcastic and whatnot. But anyway, I mean, essentially, it's like a world that's on the back of a turtle that's flying through space.
I mean, I'm in.
There's something ridiculous.
Just reading that description as you were talking to, ridiculous or pathetic characters, quirky settings, absurd magical rules and creatures, subverted fantasy cliches, witty writing. I mean, that sounds great. I would love to get into that.
I think you would really like Terry Pratchett, dude. I read Good Omens. It wasn't for me. I think you would like it more for sure than I. It was.
You left that here as well.
It's to me. Essentially, that's a low fantasy. And also modern fantasy. It is a take on the Antichrist coming to the
Interesting.
world, and anyway, and like it's a demon and an angel teaming up to try and like prevent the Antichrist from coming, because I guess when that happens, like both their jobs are over, and so it's like a satirical like take on them kind of working together to prevent it from occurring. Anyway, there were parts that I thought were funny. It just wasn't interesting to me. Like
Gotcha.
the topic itself was not interesting. I mean, science fantasy. Between science fiction, I mean, what are our examples here?
Shadows of the Self. That's one of Shadows of the Self is one of the Mistborn books. I'm pretty sure.
Really? Okay. Well, fantastical planets and alien races, magical technology. I don't know if I've ever really seen any magical technology. I mean, you wouldn't say Stormlight.
I would say, yeah, Rhythm of War, I would say, would probably fall into that, right? Yeah, Shadows of Self is the second book in the Era 2 of Mistborn. But anyway, yeah, I think Rhythm of War would definitely fall into that with all the, spoiler alert for Stormlight, but with all the, Artifabrial stuff that Navani's doing.
Yeah.
I would think. Aretharu, but, oh, here we go. You have
This
a lot
is
to say
it,
about this.
dude. This right here is a series we definitely got to get into eventually.
Yeah.
But I love how it says it's automatically high fantasy. So this is, I always say this is my favorite subgenre. So let's see if this fits what I think.
Grimdark.
High fantasy with gritty or grim setting, often focus on characters with less than impeccable morals, for sure. Anti-heroes or criminal underworlds within fantasy societies, for sure. The subgenre provides a contrast to more traditional fantasy worlds and their moral heroes, quaint medieval villages, and what would you say?
Resplendent.
Resplendent.
Mm-hmm. Don't ask me to define it, but I know how to say it.
Translate into English. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, this is all. I mean, I love a good assassin. I love a good thieves. Like, I mean, as you're reading right now in Mistborn, I mean, it is an underworld criminal group doing some stuff, which, I mean, theoretically, they're the good guys, but I even love it when they're the bad guys. I love organized crime. I love it all.
Yeah, and there's one of your favorite books down there as examples, The Blade itself. By the way, resplendent means attractive and impressive through being richly colorful or sumptuous, and sumptuous means splendid and expensive looking.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. So this, dude, I've heard the Black Company is really good. That
That's
one,
racist.
I just put that one on there. My to read, but I would say, yeah, I didn't realize Lies of Locke Lamora qualified as this. I mean, that makes me want to read it even more for sure. But dude, I would
got him
say,
up there waiting.
Dude, I can't. I've heard that that's like one of the best duos in fantasy, like one of the best friendship. Which, dude, the next video we need to do next Wednesday, I've already got it. We're gonna do fantasy tropes of like ones we think we like and we don't like. But anyway, one of the fantasy tropes that I think I really do like is like a Bond trope of like two, like a brotherhood kind of like in it together type of trope. Which I'm there for sure. All right, well, this will be our last one. Gothic fantasy is a blend of fantasy and horror where elements of the later form a key focus on the story. I don't know if I've ever...
Latter.
What did I say? Later?
Yeah.
Tomater. You think Dracula qualifies for this?
Yeah, I think Dracula's like the OG Gothic fantasy, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I remember when we were reading. It was saying that. I like dark, so fantasy's a little ambiguous.
Yeah, I think I would be into this. I definitely would have to read Wicked. Dude, we're both struggling. Wicked This Way Comes, I've heard of, so I'm going to pull that up real quick. But
Something Wicked This Way Comes. Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Oh, it's Ray Bradbury. I've heard that name before. Oh, never mind.
I wonder what is Sabriel. Look up Sabriel. What?
Something Wicked This Way Comes. 130,000 ratings with a 3.91. What's the other one to look up?
This first one, Sabriel.
By Garth Nix. 204,000 reviews, 4.16. This came out in 95. That looks cool. I'm adding that to the old want to read.
Garth Nix just does not sound like... I mean, he sounds like he'd release.
Sounds
a
close to
banger
what
above
my
the
Sith
back of
Lord
his
name
truck.
would be, Darth Dix.
No. We'll see if that makes the final cut.
Come on, man.
Surely it will, surely. But anyway, here's some subgenres. I feel like I've learned a little bit, especially the low and high
Yeah,
thing.
I did for sure.
It is interesting to kind of see the different subgenres. I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like sci-fi, I guess science fiction's its own thing, but dude, I don't know why. I really do, and in even smaller bookstores, they stay combining science fiction and fantasy. So I know there was the science fantasy thing, but I feel like that's just a bigger thing in it in general. I know sci-fi is its own thing, and I'm sure hardcore sci-fi fans would hate to hear that, but
yeah, and I mean,
there's a lot of things that are.
not to just keep referring to film rather than books, but I feel like Star Wars is a good example of like science fantasy because it has the science fiction, but then they also have an entire magic system through the Force. So
For sure. I
feel
would
like that
say
would fall in that
that's a
genre.
perfect example because I would even almost make a stand that that's not science fiction.
Yeah, you're honestly right because there's
what
really
are they
actually
making?
not a lot of. I mean, there is a lot of. I mean, there's the spaceships and there's the Death Star and all this, but it's not like. I mean, it is like
They're not making a point. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah,
not making a
like-
science point like Dune is
Yeah,
or like
correct. Yeah, so I would actually. You're probably right. That's probably more
Yeah.
just like fantasy.
which
yeah.
is great. Like when I really think about that world, it is almost a tragedy. And I know you've mentioned it. I really do want to read some of those books because I was thinking about the other day just how the lightsaber is such a sick concept. Like
just-
the idea of a lightsaber is so cool. And then
It's so
pairing
cool,
that
man.
with the Force is also super cool.
Yeah,
And
dude.
even just there's just so many concepts, and obviously that's why Star Wars is as big as it is because it's such a good, like not just one good idea, but so many good ideas combined. It's just a
Right.
tragedy that there's not like a core. I know that you said there's a core canon, but it almost wish it was all under one author. It seems like, and I haven't read enough to even really
Yeah,
make
it's
that
just
claim,
so tough, man.
But
No, I mean,
imagine
you're
like
right.
a 15-book series, like a Wheel of Time, on just the true story of what we already have, like a New Hope going all the way back. Can you imagine? That would be so sick.
Yeah, and it's
Maybe there
it's
is
movies
something like
first, so like there's novelizations of the movies, but there are series that are really really good. And there's writers that have written Star Wars that's really good, but a lot of Star Wars books are just like they're still cool stories, and as a Star Wars nerd, like I still enjoy them, but for the average reader, they're just not that good in comparison to like a lot of other stuff that's out there. You have to kind of what you're saying, you have to love the lightsaber and the Force for these books to do it for you. If you're not like if those don't bring you to the table either way, then a lot of the books you won't enjoy. Some of them I think are still good regardless, but there's several that I've read that it's like, man, this story was kind of convoluted and like really kind of a reach. But then there's some that are dope, man. We should honestly do a video where I go over all the Star Wars books I've read and like rank them and like that kind of thing. And there's some that I would definitely recommend to you that you would also. They're such easy reads, dude. They're like little books that are like 400 pages. You'll read it in a day or two.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, I say we end with showing that, hey, we are closing in on 500 subscribers here.
We're on our way, kids.
You know, I heard a video
Appreciate the
say
subs.
that, yeah, thanks for subscribing. If you're not, feel free. And also, feel free to interact with us in the comments. That's something that we've talked about that we feel like we don't get enough of right now. So, reach out, say something you like, reading. I don't know. Give us something controversial. Give us a controversial take within reading, and let's see if we agree or disagree. I don't know. We're looking to engage.
Yep.
Wouldn't you say?
We are indeed.
So, anyway, well, we went one weekly update down. It's an hour. Maybe we'll shorten some of these later on, but I kind of like doing this in general. Just catching up.
Yeah, that was a good time, and we'll have some more stuff coming this way. Yeah, if you're listening on podcast apps, definitely like, subscribe, follow, do all the things. Like, subscribe, and comment on the tube here, and yeah, let us know if there's something you want us to read in the future here.
Amen. All right, I guess we'll see you guys in the next one. It looks like it'll probably be maybe a little rise and fall.
A little rise and fall, baby.
Rise and fall. All right, we will catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.